As we watch the slow, steady waves of Islamic terrorism wash on the shores of one country after another, we are tempted to ask, how can this really be? How can Islam inherently be violent? There must be some other explanation. And when we have our political leaders, one after another, standing up saying that Islam is a religion of peace, the peaceful religion of Islam has been hijacked by a radical minority, you can start to figure it out. But one of the key means by which Muslims have been able to seduce and deceive and dupe the average Westerner, the average non-Muslim, and even some unwitting so-called moderate Muslims, is to simply deny the truth. In other words, they lie. You might have seen this man before, Reza Aslan. He was born in Iran. His parents fled here. One of the bios I read on him said that he flirted with being an evangelical Christian for a while. I'm not kidding. And then went back to Islam. He wrote a book, a blasphemous book against our Lord Jesus Christ, called Zealot, The Life and Times of Jesus of Nazareth, where, of course, he denies that Jesus is the Son of God and that Jesus is God the Son. Well, he shows up quite a bit on various news outlets as an expert on Islam, and I'm here to tell you he is a deceiver. He lies through his teeth. Reza, if you're watching this, you know you're lying, and I'm going to make it a part of my mission in this show to keep tabs on you and show some of your lies once in a while. Let's roll tape and show one right now. This one was a whopper, that Muhammad stopped slavery.
They would say, though, that they appeal to better evidence than religious people do. For example, if you're a Christian, you could reassess certain claims, but at the core, there are certain beliefs that typically bind all Christians of a certain sort, like the whole Jesus thing.
Oh.
I mean,
no, that's actually not true.
I said typically. I'm saying typically.
God.
I'm saying typically, not every claim. I'm saying there's something that makes Christians Christians, right? There are certain things that make Muslims Muslims, right? And all I'm saying is that an atheist would argue that those things that make Christians Christians and Muslims Muslims should also be reassessed, and that those are the things that they hold on to when they should not.
Well, first of all, a person can believe whatever the hell they want to believe. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of what we talk about a modern free society. You can criticize those beliefs as irrational, but there's a difference between criticizing a person's belief and condemning that person themselves and treating that person, loathing them, or dismissing them, or even suggesting that those people should be harmed because of their beliefs, because it is possible that that belief may lead to some kind of action. I think we should focus on the actions. Now, it's absolutely true that beliefs can, and sometimes do, lead to actions that violate human rights. And it is absolutely true that a lot of those actions that violate human rights are being done within Islam, and in particular in one region of the Muslim world. We should condemn those actions in the loudest terms possible. And as I said before, it's not enough to just simply say, well, those people, they may call themselves Muslim, they may say that they're doing these actions in the name of Islam, but that's not really Islam, they're not really Muslims. I understand that sentiment, and frankly, you know, it's not exactly false in many ways. I mean, for instance, ISIS's notion of reestablishing slavery as part of Islam. I mean, if you know anything about Islamic history, the very first thing that Muhammad did was outlaw slavery. It was like the number one thing that he did when he established this new religious community. But nevertheless, there is no such thing as a Muslim Pope. There is no such thing as a Muslim Vatican. No one gets to tell you who is and who is not a Muslim. So, if a member of ISIS says, I'm chopping off infidels' heads because I'm a Muslim and Islam tells me to do so, you got to take his word for it. He's a Muslim, and that's his interpretation of Islam.
Now, please note that he says it with fire, with conviction. The first thing Muhammad did was end slavery. I don't know that, well, for sure the first thing Muhammad did was not end slavery, but that's a big assertion. I mean, that's like Jesus' first miracle was the wedding at Cana of Galilee, where he changed the water into wine. I mean, we can identify the first thing Muhammad did, and it was end slavery? What a great man he must have been. It's a lie. Muhammad participated in slavery regularly. The Quran has multiple passages about slavery. I'm going to read to you a couple just to show that Mr. Aslan is lying, but to also help you understand, when the guy at CNN was interviewing him, he didn't know enough about Islam to know that Aslan was lying. I mean, most of us aren't students of the Quran or students of the Hadith, so we have this trusting element about us that we're going to listen to somebody who's supposedly an expert, and we're going to think, well, they're not going to lie to us, they're not going to get on national television and lie. Yes, they will. Look at this. This is from Ibn Ishaq, A History of Muhammad's Life. The Muslim referee specifically obtained a promise from Muhammad that Muhammad himself would honor his decision concerning the Jews of Qurayza. Once Muhammad agreed, the referee pronounced his verdict. Then I give judgment that the men should be killed, the property divided, and the women and children taken as captives. Now, taken as captives, by the way, in this translation, the word is slaves, okay? Taken as slaves. I'll show you another one. This is from the Quran. This is not history. This is the Quran, chapter 70. The believers truly believe in the day of judgment and dread the punishment of their Lord. For none is secure from the punishment of their Lord, and restrain their carnal desire, save with their wives and slave girls, for these are lawful to them. Now, for those of you who don't know the context of this, this is talking about Muslims should fear committing sexual sins. They're not allowed to have sex with just anyone they want. They are, however, allowed to have sex with their wives. They have to restrain their carnal desires, except for their wives and their slave girls. So here we have the Quran talking about the fact that devout Muslim men can, number one, have slaves. So evidently, Muhammad didn't get the memo that slavery was still okay, or Aslan was lying to us. I'm going with Aslan lying to us. Second of all, it wasn't just that they could have slaves, they could have sex slaves. They could have concubines. And again, I urge you, go to our website. You can watch the series, What Would Muhammad Do? For free. You can read the research papers that I did on Muhammad, on Islamic terrorists, on Sharia law, for free. They're all there. We've spent literally tens of thousands of dollars to make these things available to you for free. Go and read the material. And I'll tell you this one last story, and then you go to the website and you search it out for yourself. When they killed those Jews, the Jews of Qurayza, decapitated their men. That's why they're preoccupied with decapitation. They took their wives as slaves, and Muhammad took one as his own sex slave, his own concubine. And the sacred histories of Islam say that she remained in his possession as his sex slave until he predeceased her, and then she was let free. That is Islam. So when Reza Aslan says that Muhammad ended slavery, he's lying. I'll be right back.